How to learn English. Easy. Hello, my name is Anna. I study English literature, and this is my story. I want to tell you about my life in London and about my wonderful teacher. You can read my story and learn English with me. It was a beautiful summer day, and I was traveling by train. Two women were sitting across from me. They were speaking English. I did not understand very much because I was still a beginner and I did not know many words. Still, I tried to speak to them in simple English. They understood what I wanted to say, and that made me feel happy. I told them that I wanted to learn English. They said they were from England and were going home after a conference. Our conversation lasted about 10 minutes. Then the train reached my station and I said goodbye. The women gave me their address and phone number. They told me I could visit them in England one day. Then we said goodbye. After that meeting, I practiced English every day. I translated short texts and watched films in English. After 6 months, my English was much better. But I still wanted to learn more, so I went to London. I wanted to study English there. When I arrived, I joined a school. My first lesson was on Monday. I met my teacher and the other students in the class. My teacher was a young, kind woman. She was friendly and humble. We introduced ourselves and then the lesson began. Our teacher asked us a question because she wanted to understand what we already knew about English. She said she could teach us a very effective way to learn English. The method was simple. She told us that we did not need to study in the old way. We did not need to spend all our time reading textbooks. Instead, we needed to use English often in daily life. That sounded very good to me. I had never liked studying only from textbooks because they confused me. Then we talked about what really matters when we learn a new language. Our teacher said that language is a tool for communication. We use language to share ideas, thoughts, and feelings. So when you learn a new language, the best way is to use it. Use it to express yourself. Use it to communicate with other people. She said that was exactly what we would do in our course. We would speak English and we would use it a lot. Many students try to memorize new words. They also study grammar rules. But very often they do not use English for speaking. They study about the language, but they do not really use the language. And there is a big difference. Of course, you need new words and grammar, but you do not have to learn them only in a boring way. You need to practice them every day. In this course, our teacher wanted to show us a simple and powerful method for learning vocabulary and grammar. I liked what she said. The lesson continued and we talked about our hobbies and the things we enjoyed doing in our free time. We spoke in pairs and also with our teacher. I enjoyed the class and I felt truly happy. This way of learning seemed very good to me. More than that, it felt real. It felt like something I could use every day. Chapter 2: How I Learned Vocabulary. I went back to school on Tuesday. One of the students asked a question that was very interesting to me. She asked, "What is the best way to learn new words?" Our teacher said there were many things we could do to learn vocabulary, but statistically, the most effective way to learn new words is reading. When people read, they learn new words in their own language much faster. In fact, they often learn twice as fast as people who do not read. It is good to read for at least 30 minutes every day. Our teacher wanted to show us what to do if we wanted to get the best results from reading. First, the book or text must be interesting to you. It is important to enjoy what you read. The book can be a good story, fiction, or nonfiction. Choose something that matches your interests. Do not read a text that feels boring to you. When you do not know many words, it is easy to become frustrated. That is why you should always try to enjoy what you do in the language. It is effective to choose a text that is interesting and also right for your level. When you read and find a word you do not understand, take a dictionary and look it up. Check its meaning. This will help you understand the text better. It will also increase your knowledge of the text. You do not need to write down every new word. The word will slowly stay in your brain. Later, when you see it again, you will remember its meaning more easily. Every time you meet a new word, do the same thing. Reading also has another great advantage. When you read, you learn new words, but you also learn how each word connects with the other words in a sentence. You can see how words fit together naturally. This way of learning vocabulary is very effective. Try it and you will see how quickly you can learn new words. Then we continued the lesson. We talked about life in England and the best jobs for students. This was useful for me because I wanted to find a job. I wanted to do something in my free time after school. I asked the other students if they knew where I could find work. They told me I should go to a job center. The job center offers many jobs, especially for students. That was good news for me. I was happy because now I knew where to look. When my school day finished, I went to the job center. I did not know what kind of job I could do, so I asked the woman there, "What is the best job for a student?" She told me they had some good student jobs. She said I could work as a cleaner or as a waitress in a cafe. I told her that I had no experience with those jobs. She said my English was good enough for a cafe job. The training would not be difficult, and I would have more chances to speak English than if I worked as a cleaner. She told me I could start on Thursday. Everything was fine. I was very happy because I had found a job where I could practice English. If you want to learn new words effectively, read for 30 minutes every day. On Wednesday, I went to school again. There was one student in the class who was quieter than the others. He was from South Korea. When our teacher asked if anyone had questions, the Korean student said he had one. He explained that he had a big problem with pronunciation. He knew his pronunciation was not very good, but he did not know how to improve it. He did not speak much because he did not want other people to hear his bad pronunciation. He said he read a lot and watched many films in English. He could understand very well, but he wanted to improve his speaking. He asked if there was anything he could do to improve his pronunciation. When our teacher heard this, she said, "Okay, I will tell you something about pronunciation and how to practice it. I will also teach you some techniques that can help all of you improve your pronunciation. First, we have to understand why students have pronunciation problems. When we speak, we move our mouths. We use the muscles in our mouths. We all do this. The problem is that when you speak English, you sometimes use your muscles in the same way you use them in your native language. Then your pronunciation becomes different from a native speaker's pronunciation. This happens to many English learners. Almost everyone pronounces some sounds a little differently from how they should. In most cases, this is not a serious problem. People can often understand what you want to say, even if your pronunciation is not perfect. However, you can improve your pronunciation with a very useful technique. This technique can help you a lot. It is called shadowing. Shadowing is simple. When you shadow, you copy the sounds you hear. When children learn their first language, they learn by copying. They copy their parents again and again. Then, one day, their pronunciation becomes natural. You can learn English pronunciation in the same way. This is what you do. Choose a video or audio recording that is not too fast and that you can understand well. Then listen and copy what you hear. That is all. Then our teacher went to YouTube and searched for the shadowing technique. She found some good videos that demonstrated it very clearly. We watched the video and then we all practiced shadowing for about 3 minutes. After that, our teacher said shadowing is also useful when you are preparing for a presentation in English. Before your presentation, you can go somewhere quiet where you are alone and practice shadowing for about 10 minutes. You will see how much it helps your pronunciation during the presentation. This was very interesting to me because I had never heard of this technique before. When the lesson ended, I went to the school reception. I asked the woman there if the school had any sports activities. I wanted to play sports while I was in England. The woman at the reception said, "Yes, we have a table tennis team and a football team. The football team has training today at 5 o'clock." I was very happy because sport is important in my life. I went to football training and met many players from different countries. They were from Brazil, Japan, Russia, Spain, Argentina, and Italy. I enjoyed the training and I felt very happy. My time in England had started well. I had a great teacher and I had also made new friends on the football team. Tomorrow, I was going to start my new job too. If you want good pronunciation, repeat after native speakers. On Thursday, I went to school again. There was a new student in our class. Her name was Elizabeth and she was from Italy. At the beginning of the lesson, my teacher asked Elizabeth some questions. My teacher already knew her because Elizabeth had visited her class 1 year earlier. It was a beginner class and it lasted only 2 weeks during the summer holiday. When Elizabeth spoke, she spoke beautifully. Her pronunciation was very good and she was fluent. My teacher was pleased and said, "Your school in Italy must be very good." Elizabeth said, "I do not go to any school. I learn English at home. I use the techniques I learned from you. I do a lot of reading, shadowing, and thinking aloud. I try to think more in English than in Italian. This is how I work on my English. The 2 weeks I spent in your class last summer helped me a lot. You showed me the way. Now I know how to work on my English every day. That is why I wanted to join your class again. 1 year ago, I was a beginner, and now I can speak English. I want to learn from you again." My teacher was very happy to hear these words. She praised Elizabeth for all her hard work. It was all very interesting to me. I already knew about reading, and I also knew the shadowing technique. But Elizabeth also talked about thinking aloud. I did not know what that meant, so I asked our teacher, "What is thinking aloud?" Our teacher replied, "It is a very effective technique, but you need strong motivation if you want to benefit from it. It is also good to know that some people may think this technique is a little crazy. But when you start thinking aloud, your English can improve very quickly." I said, "I have strong motivation. I do not care if the technique sounds crazy. If it helps, I want to learn it. Can you teach us this technique?" "Okay," she said. "It is actually very simple. You think in your native language all day. That is normal. Now you can start thinking in English. And when you think in English, you can also think aloud. You simply say out loud what you are thinking. That is all." I said, "That sounds very simple. Why is it so effective?" Our teacher said, "Maybe you can ask Elizabeth. She uses this technique, so perhaps she can tell you more about it." Then our teacher asked Elizabeth if she was willing to share her experience with thinking aloud. Elizabeth said it was not a problem. She explained, "When I started using this technique, it was not easy. I began with very simple sentences. For example, I can speak English. It is good that I can speak English. I want to improve. I need to practice every day. I do not know many words yet, but I can use the words I know. I can express my ideas with these words. I can do this. This is great." The sentences were very simple, but at the beginning, there was one problem. My thoughts in Italian were long and complicated. I could not say exactly the same things in English, so I had to find a simpler English form. Thinking in simple English was the hardest part, but after some time, it became normal for me to think in English. Then something interesting happened. I met a man from Australia who was on holiday in Italy. I was still a beginner, but we started speaking English. I could see that I was able to talk with him without serious problems. My sentences were simple and short, but I could speak. I did not translate in my head from Italian to English. After meeting the man from Australia, I started using thinking aloud even more. This technique helped me a lot with speaking. I still use it every day. It really is a very effective technique. Our teacher thanked Elizabeth for sharing her experience. I wanted to use this technique too because I also wanted to improve my speaking. If you want to speak English fluently, think aloud. I want to give you one extra piece of advice. If you want to learn English, read, listen, think, and speak. Do each activity for 40 minutes every day. You can read, listen, and shadow with our basic English stories.